This is the Erica Diamond Podcast, getting you motivated and inspired by conversations with today's thought leaders and coolest people. Each episode, get up close and personal with compelling guests who share stories and tips that empower you to live your best life. Now, let's get off the fence. Here's your host, Erica Diamond.
Welcome to the Erica Diamond Podcast, third episode. I'm so thrilled you're here. And I'm elated to have Sheri Salata on the show with us today. When I met Sheri in Montreal in November 2011, I was really, really smitten. I thought, now this is the girlfriend every woman would want in their lives. We flew Sheri in for a cancer fundraiser when I was on the committee for Israeli cancer research. And I think we were her first ever speaking gig. Is that right, Sheri? Was Montreal your first ever speaking?
Yes, it was my first big paid speaking appearance for sure.
Well, I was inspired. All the women were inspired. And I just knew that my audience here would have to get to know, I'm sure they know, but have to get to know this trailblazer of a woman. And so who are you, Sheri? Sheri Salata is a writer, producer, co-founder of thepillarlife.com, and co-host of the podcast, The Sheri and Nancy Show. Her current ventures are the evolution of her 20-year career with Oprah Winfrey, her action-packed days as executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show were chronicled in the acclaimed docuseries Season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. Sheri also served as co-president of Harpo Studios and OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. She has been named one of Fast Company's 100 most creative people in business, the Hollywood Reporter's Women in Entertainment Power 100, and the 2017 Feminist Press Power Award winners. She's a proud Iowa Hawkeye and is the author of the new book, The Beautiful No, and other tales of trial, transcendence, and transformation. I wanted to have Sheri on the show because she has so much wisdom and insight packed into her life and career, and I knew we'd learn a ton. So welcome to the show, Sheri.
Oh my gosh, Erica, and everybody listening, thanks so much. It's such an honor to be here, to be podcast number 3.
You are podcast number 3, so you're the expert. I'm the rookie, so you're going to have to teach me everything.
Well, it sounds like you're doing just great.
So Sheri, I'm really excited to dive in. So let's just go. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So when you talked to us in Montreal, you said to us, we were 600 or 700 women, a career is a spiritual journey. Tell me about that.
Yes. Well, listen, a lot of people think, Erica, and think incorrectly, that I was hatched from an egg and ended up working for Oprah and that literal career lottery win, but it really isn't true. I graduated from the University of Iowa, and I had years of twists and turns and fails and disappointments. I started in an entry-level position at the Oprah Winfrey Show when I was 35 years old.
Wow.
35 years old. So, and I had, and here's what I'll say about my early self. This is a big shout out to the Sheri of those days. I was always willing to start over. Even though it was kind of hard because you start getting a little money in your 401k and you think you're locked for life. But I was always willing to start over eventually when I saw it wasn't right.
Wow.
So,
how do you build that resilience muscle? Because that's wisdom I feel you only gained so much later in life. So how did you know that?
Well, because I could see very quickly, even in the jobs that weren't really a good fit for me, that you spend a lot of time working. You know, if you are in a position where you have to support yourself and you need a full-time job, full-time is full-time. You spend a lot of hours. And what I began to realize, like my soul was literally instructing me that, wow, if you're going to spend this much time working in a week, you better find some meaning in it. It needs to answer some deeper call. And so I really was on a quest to find the kind of work that lit me up and also provided that deeper layer of meaning. So when I say a career is a spiritual journey, what I could see is that there's many different ways to go around it. My recommendation is you make happiness your compass,
Mm.
and you realize that you're not just working for a paycheck. That there are things going on in your professional life that can be deeply spiritual, deeply elevating, and deeply expanding if you're willing to look at it through those lenses.
It always, to me, as I've watched you, seemed apparent that your work was not solely, it was not for the pay, it was not paycheck driven. It was so clear how much passion and love you had for your work.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
no job is I mean, we all have shit we got to do, pardon my French, but it was clear that you loved your work, you know?
Well, and I think that's a really great thing to point out, Erica, that listen, I know I could have been right in the bandwagon of saying, well, easy for you to say, Sheri Salata, you were working for Oprah. And there's no question that that was an amazing experience. But now, as I look back with wiser eyes, with less reactivity, with some perspective, what I can see is we can all bring that sense of meaning and purpose to anything we're doing, whether we're earning money for it or not.
Yeah, sure. So once we're going back, take me back to the beginning and take me a little bit through your childhood and how you fell into TV production.
Well, it was, I was a little bossy pants. I was the oldest of all my cousins on both side of my family, and I was a bit of a bossy pants, and I was older by a little bit. Like I think the next oldest person was maybe 3 years younger than me. And so I would herd them all together and put on plays and skits and musicals, and we're very much a musical family. We like to perform, as they say,
Hmm.
and but I didn't go into TV production in college. I didn't, and I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I thought that was too elusive. I was going to be a doctor, and then I was going to be a important businesswoman, and it was
I feel like you've had to be all those things anyhow.
I know, maybe a little bit of a healer, a
Yep.
dream maker, a
Yep.
businesswoman. Yeah. Yeah. And it was just so odd the way it would unfold for me. I mean, it really was very crazy. And in one of my startovers where, this isn't it, let me pull the plug on that thing and move on to something else. I was hired by my best friend's fiance to be his secretary, and he worked at an advertising agency as an executive producer, and he taught me everything. He taught me how to produce, how to do music, how to do voiceover, how to edit, how to manage a shoot, and it just, I was like, okay, this is the technical aspect of what I was meant to do, for sure. Lots of writing and creating, and it felt very glamorous at the time to be doing like commercials for VO5 hairspray. Felt super glamorous. And then after a while, after about 6 years, then all of a sudden I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is it. And, fortunately I was in Chicago, and there was a powerhouse creative dynamo, Oprah Winfrey, who was just finished her ninth season, I think. And, when I started at the Oprah Show, that's when it all kind of came together for me. But, the big news is I did not give up until I found it. I just didn't give up. And I was willing to start from scratch over and over again. I wasn't willing to give up on the dream of doing work that mattered,
Hmm.
that gave my life a sense of meaning and purpose,
Hmm.
and also was a total joyride.
Yeah, I think it's, hindsight is 2020. There's a great quote. I can't think of it offhand, but there's something like the line is very fine between working and not giving up and knowing when to throw in the towel. And I think those are kind of big questions. How do you know that you're just on your break, on the brink
Yeah.
of a break, right? Keep going, or you're just wasting your time. It's hard to know
Well,
that.
it is. And, and on the other side of that stick for me is I would always stay in things way too long. I would just, I call it making misery my compass.
Hmm.
And I just would, I would just wait and wait and wait until I couldn't get out of bed anymore, because it was hard to make a change, and for many of us, that change thing is challenging, that it feels like, it makes us feel insecure or uncertain or kind of vulnerable, and instead of feeling rooted and sure. um, where I netted out on that at one point was realizing that, okay, Sheri, you can make misery your compass, as you did in all of your younger years, or how about this for an idea? Why don't you make happiness your compass?
Hmm.
And when you lean in the direction of happiness, because you and only you are in charge of your own happiness. Happiness is not something somebody can do for you, regardless of what a Hallmark card says.
Oh yeah, that's for
Really,
sure.
no, nobody can make you happy. That is a complete and total myth. You are in charge of your own happiness. So if you are willing to lean into the direction of that and really notice what kinds of activities make you feel good, what kinds of relationships make you feel good, what kinds of friendships make you feel good, that's really something interesting to open up the box on that and take a look at. And when you start to realize that you've made a commitment to lean in the direction of feeling good, i.e., happiness, all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're leading a happy life. And I think it applies to every area of your life across the board, including where you work.
Those are great points. I fully agree with you. And on the flip side, getting rid of all the negativity and all the toxicity that's weighing you down. So leaning into the happiness and shedding whatever you can is not worthy of your time. That's
Yeah.
profound. That's profound. So, they always ask athletes what it was like to play alongside Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Wayne Gretzky. Can you give some thoughts on what it was like to work alongside Miss Oprah and how it impacted you and your career?
Well, I mean, going to work for Oprah was, I was old enough to know it was a eureka. Oh my God, this is now I'm going to be a part of history,
Mm-hmm.
not just part of a company, a company rollout. And having that knowledge, I knew that every day of the thousands of days I worked for her. I knew that every day. And what it was like, it's probably what anybody would say, that she is a real woman, a real person, and not just a two-dimensional icon. She's a full human being, and um, you know, uh, had more laughs than I would have ever imagined. I never would have imagined that we would laugh so much, that we would have so much fun. Just to be able to um, see the world from that experience was a game changer. And Erica, there's no question, for me, the greatest company benefit. I mean, listen, it's fascinating to work for somebody who's that famous.
It's not even famous. It's someone who you're touching the most relevant, current, important
Yeah,
people in the world, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is. It's interesting. It's fascinating. It's expansive in such a big way. But I would say, if you were going to ask me what was the number one benefit of that experience, it was being paid to build a spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
How
exposure.
lucky? How lucky is
Yeah,
that, right?
the exposure, and listen, the being a producer, it's notorious for being stressed and being a doer rather than a beer, and with a million to-do lists. And I certainly fell prey to all of that. I made lots of terrible choices in my, producing life for myself personally. But oh my God, I mean, the ride was, it was like it was like, hang on to your socks. You're on
Yeah.
the rapids.
You're on the tallest, biggest, steepest roller coaster there is.
Yeah. And then you get off and you go, okay, what are my treasures? And it's like, wow, I was paid to listen and to produce some of the greatest wisdom keepers of our time. And all of that opened me up and opened me up. And that, the spiritual life that I have today is absolutely because of that foundation.
Oh, I'm sure. I read, quote, Sheri had dedicated decades to her dream job and loved almost every minute of it, but had left the rest of her life gathering dust on the shelf. Wow. Talk to me about that and what you've learned about self-care. I feel like this is really a self-care quote,
Yeah.
but had left the rest of her life gathering dust. I mean, that really spoke to me.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and it's if you are a person, and this is the way that I've just recently kind of articulated this for myself, that has to get an A, you're more likely to put all of your time and energy and attention into the areas in your life where you excel. And the areas where you don't excel or you're not having the same kind of success, and you kind of just shove in a drawer and say, well, I'm not as good at that. Let me keep getting the validation and that worthiness box check from this thing I do really, really, really well. And I'm having so much success at and getting so much validation at. So, I found myself at 56 years old when I left OWN and to start the podcast and our digital platform. What I realized in a big moment of reckoning is that I had manifested this dream come true career, but I had not manifested a dream come true life. And
Wow.
these last several years, I've had to kind of unpack that. Like, what does that mean? What is my dream come true life? How do I even look at when is the last time I even sat down and had a serious think about my life? Like, how many years might I have left? Obviously none of us knows how many days we have, but let's say you take care of yourself. Let's say you make health a real priority. Maybe you're going to be Doris Day and you're going to live to your 97.
Yeah.
So if that is so, one of my favorite people ever, by the way, but if that is really so, then, oh my gosh, you might have 40 or 50 years left. You better start thinking about what that means, what that concept of my life means. And that kind of like, okay, so how am I going to do that?
And so how do you do that?
Well,
as Oprah says, what's the next right step and then the next right step, right?
Right. Well, I mean, basically it's taking a look at the areas of your life that matter to you. And ultimately there were 8. And I sat back and really said, what are my new dreams? Not my dreams when I was 30, not my dreams when I was 40. What are my dreams right now for these areas of my life? And what are some of the practices I can begin to make a part of my day in and day out that can begin to like stir up some energy around those dreams? So it's kind of like, putting my focus and my time and attention on a fully integrated whole life. And for me, what that meant and what that continues to mean is radical self-care comes first.
Yeah.
Because those were always the first things to go.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a life coach and my mom is a therapist. I've been surrounded by health and wellness, and you see those who don't manifest as well if they're not able to incorporate self-care, if they've been raised to, squash themselves, to be little, to make themselves little, who don't feel deserving. You really can't manifest your highest self without self-care. It's cheesy, it's tacky, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and that there's a much bigger definition there. I mean, it is 5 minutes of breathing, it's meditation, it's some sort of body movement, yoga, working out, cardio, something. It's throwing more plants in your diet. It also is setting boundaries,
Yeah.
making sure that your relationships are uplifting. I mean, there are a million things that it can be part of your personal recipe for radical self-care.
Yeah, self-care is sometimes doing hard things, right? Looking deep into your finances and, like you said, making radical shifts of, taking people out of your life. So self-care isn't
Yeah.
always easy.
Right. And it's just really, it's having your own back, being able to trust yourself to take care of yourself. And, and it's when you haven't done that, it is, you have to be really kind to yourself because you've got some worn neural pathways. And even like this morning, I had a bunch of stuff going on, and there's, with a book launch, I can feel some of those pressures coming on. I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to sign this, I got to take care of this. And I literally, I'm like, well, I'm not going to make that spin class. And I just, that was the first thing to go. And then I tended to things that kind of fall under, career or work. And I caught myself later and said, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. There's nothing that can't wait while you take care of yourself. So now I'm rescheduling for later in the afternoon. But, listen, there's years when I would have blown it off and I wouldn't have got back to it for a month.
Yeah. Oh, it's so relatable, Sheri. That is just so relatable. I did the same thing. I had a meeting this morning. I said, no, I'm going to skip yoga. I'm going to be task oriented. And now this afternoon, I feel sluggish because I didn't, my serotonin and decrease my cortisol levels. And that's so resonating.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's like, now can you correct in the moment? It used to be for me that I could go unconscious for a year or two. So can you correct in the moment and remind yourself, wait a second, what feels good? What's my lean into happiness here? And, I'm still very much in process on it.
Yeah. Oh, so well said. While we're in process, do you feel, or what do you feel you sacrificed for a thriving career? My mom always said to me, Erica, there's no free lunch. And I really believe that. Do you feel you sacrificed, or what do you feel you sacrificed for your thriving career?
Well, listen, I made decisions. I would not say that. It feels different than that for me, honestly. I think you can have anything you want. And I think you can have a full, whole, integrated life no matter what kind of work you're doing. I really think you can. I think what I did is I was given the perfect excuse to avoid dealing with the other areas of my life because I got so much satisfaction and validation from my job.
Right.
So I very much, I will say with tenderness, great tenderness about myself, that I used that career as an excuse not to take care of everything else, mostly myself. And I would say, and often when I'm talking to much younger women who are beginning to forge their career paths, they get nervous about this conversation because they want to shine, they want to accomplish, they want to succeed. And I'm like, oh yeah, I think you can. I think you can have everything you want. I really do. What the difference is, you can't zone out in front of the TV. You can't mindlessly, drown yourself in cheese and Chardonnay. You know what I mean?
Feels good sometimes.
You're gonna have to take those extra 20 hours a week and really put them to super healthy happiness, radical self-care. And I think you can have anything you want.
To me, that's discipline. I think that's a good word based on what you just said. Like, you've got to be disciplined. Happiness is not an easy choice. It's the tougher choice, but it takes discipline to lead a thriving life, I think, at least.
Well, it certainly does this. So for some people, discipline's going to be a huge trigger. And like the minute I hear that word, I want to rebel. For some people, that is like, I got to have things ship shape. I think what it is the bigger concept probably is consciousness. Are you going to walk through moment by moment? Are you going to walk through your life consciously? or in every area? Or are you going to go into unconsciousness and then wake up 5 years later and realize, oh, all that unlived life. Oh, I let those days slip through my fingers.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the cautionary tale in all this.
Yeah. Nobody wants to wake up in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years and have regrets that they were sleeping, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me about the pillar life, and you have a podcast in the Sheri and Nancy show. How can we lead? I know about the pillar life, but for our listeners,
Oh my gosh.
because I'm a big Sheri fan, but talk to me about
Oh,
living the pillar life and what that is.
Erica, I love you so much. So anyway, so when I had these epiphanies, I was having these epiphanies simultaneously with one of my closest sister friends of 30 years, Nancy Holla, who is a big brand strategist. And we had, but we over those 30 years, we had different lives. I was working for Oprah and doing that, many hours a week. And Nancy was a single mom raising two awesome kids and a freelance writer. And, we'd meet on the phone late at night and commiserate and dream of someday. And so Nance and I, launched our own company. Somebody approached us and said, "Hey, you guys need to do a podcast." So, which I'm like, podcast? Now I think they're the best thing in the world. But
Yeah,
I was a bit of a TV snub. So we launched our podcast, and I mean, we just hit over 1.3 million listens, which is awesome. And
wow.
that's the Sheri and Nancy show. And basically, it's the ultimate girlfriend conversation. We are just talking about how we are reimagining our lives, reinventing the middle of life. And, we bring on, some of the experts from my Oprah Show days to kind of coach us up and help us through it. And what Nancy and I created, because both she and I are very similar, we will drown ourselves in cheese and open the third bottle of Chardonnay, and more times in a week than we should. So we created a guidance system called the Pillar Life, which is there are 8 pillars, and they cover a whole range of things in anyone's life: health and wellness, spirituality and happiness, romance and sex, friends and family, sanctuary and beauty, money and abundance, creativity and innovation, formerly known as work, adventure and discovery. And what we do is we create our personal vision, each one of us, in each of those pillars, our dreams. What's the new dream? And then we start to put into practice the little things we can do in each of those pillars to kind of drive up the energy and get us to where we want to go. And it's what it is more than anything is a consciousness tool. So at thepillarlife.com, we have all kinds of stuff there. Nancy's an awesome cook. We have lots of plant-based stuff and videos and all kinds of things. But you can read all about the pillars, the 8 pillars, at thepillarlife.com.
And I would imagine that where some of us are great at certain pillars and obviously weaker at other pillars, I'm sure that's what you hear a lot, right? I'm great here, but I'm floundering here. And I guess the whole idea is to keep things in balance, to maybe even it out, or
Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is after years and years of exposure to the ultimate experts ever, which is no one program suits. You can't put another program on like a suit of clothes. That's why we start other people's programs and fall off and fail.
right.
That at the end of the day, what we're all being called to do is come up with our own program, where we're the curator, we're the expert on ourselves. And you do that by exposing yourself to different ideas, trying some things, seeing what works for you, and then kind of putting together your own program, your own pillar life. And that's what we talk about every week on our podcast, which is, how are we doing it? How are we tweaking it? How are we elevating our lives and rising up, but being very clear that we're the ones who are making those decisions about what matters to us. And sometimes, some weeks, friends and family is a much more important pillar, and some of the other pillars get less attention. But I look at all my pillars every week, Erica,
Yeah.
because I want to stay conscious.
I love
And
that. You keep using that word. I got it. It's really, it's deep. It's resonating with me. I don't use that word often, and I love it because it's true. It's true.
well, and if the thing that you're avoiding is the thing that you need to do. And that's why it really helps to have a framework, like a guidance system.
Yeah.
So it's like I decided that I'm completely committed to the joyride. Now, what my joyride is different than yours.
Yeah.
But I'm committed to my joyride, and I'm committed to week by week, day by day, really tweaking the recipe so I stay on that path that I'm committed to.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful. Me too. And my joyride starts every morning by hopping on my yoga mat or stepping on my yoga mat. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have different tricks and tips, meditation, self-care. I mean, I take a bath 365 nights a year without fail. I mean, we all need to incorporate, I always say 30 to 60 minutes a day of self-care. And that's different for you than for me. But whatever is pleasurable to you, I feel like you got to do it every day to stay
That's
on
so good.
course. Okay, so Sheri, this book, The Beautiful No, I mean, I've started it, and it's real and it's raw and it's funny. And if this doesn't hook you in, I don't know what will. So it says Thursday morning, 100 pounds overweight, no man in sight, and rounding the bend to 57 years old, a full-blown catastrophe. What happens when you realize you've had the career of your dreams, but you don't have the life of your dreams? Tell me about this tale of transformation, this book, The Beautiful No. I love the title. So great.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. Well, it is a memoir, but it's done through the lens of storytelling. And it begins, it begins from my earliest years in Waukegan, Illinois. But basically, I have carved out my gems. These are the things where I had my stories, where I had my greatest learnings, where I had my greatest sorrows, where I had my triumphs, things that I had to transcend. And here's the truth, Erica. You end up feeling a little bit, like you're walking around in the world without skin. But what's been really, really wonderful is that what I'm really saying here, which is it's never too late to live the life of your dreams. And if not now, when? That seems to be the message that is landing with all the early readers. And nothing could be more gratifying. I'm only talking to myself. The fact that it resonates with other people, just makes my heart sing.
Yeah, well, the message resonates, and that message, we all want to know that there's hope. I feel like hope is the right of everyone. And so when we know that there's hope, that it's not too late to start a new chapter or pivot or change course or start to live a full life, then that's so motivating. I think so encouraging, and a message that we need to hear, that if you're living this and you have the story to share, if you're living proof, then to me, that's really inspiring.
Yay.
So you said you're a storyteller. So I'm a storyteller too. I love telling stories and I love hearing stories. So you got to share. You got to share some of your best stories or some blunders. I mean, I love to hear them all. Any good stories you want to just?
Well, the miracle story, the miracle story is the title story, The Beautiful No. And it is about the story about how I got the job at the Oprah Show. And a lot of people don't know this, but I was, and why would they, unless you read my book or you're a friend of mine, I was actually rejected. I applied for a position, an entry-level position at the show, and I was rejected. And so I went back into the agency world, advertising agency, and I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work out, and I thought it might, but oh well. And I was up for a big, big, big job. And this was a while later. So I was out of money. I was out of hope. And then my friend got me an interview with the head of a big, big advertising agency so it would have been like huge money, a big senior job, big, huge clients. It would have been a huge step up for me. And the interview went great. And the head guy was like, You're perfect. You're exactly what I'm looking for. And I left the interview knowing, okay, I'm going to be starting in this building very soon. And ultimately, that did not happen. Not only did he never call me back, I got a rejection letter in the mail that said, yeah, we don't have anything at this time. And it took my feet out from under me, because I was like, oh my God, now what? I thought that was a for sure thing. And shortly after that, I get another call from the Oprah Winfrey Show saying, hey, we were cleaning out a closet and found your reel and resume. Will you come in and freelance?
Oh my God, what a stuff.
It's a total miracle, because
Oh
I
my
would never
goodness.
applied at the Oprah Show again.
I was going to say, was it you who bashed their door again and say, you
Oh,
gotta
no.
hire me? No, that was not
No,
the old Sheri.
I'm not made like that. I'm not made like that. You tell me no, and I'll be on my way.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That they
I
tell us,
know.
right? You got to keep going. Don't take no for an answer. So you took the no, but it was
I
meant to
took the
be.
no. And this miraculous thing happened, and they actually called me back after quite a while. And what I realized a few years later, that, oh my God, if I had gotten that big, huge job in advertising that I so wanted, I wanted it more than life. I wanted it more than life. And that no devastated me. It devastated me. Had I gotten that job, I wouldn't have quit that job a short time later to go freelance at the Oprah Show as a promo producer. No way. I'd have been too afraid. I wouldn't have given up the security of that big job. And what's so interesting is, obviously the Oprah Show thing worked out for me, and I had amazing experiences for decades. And that agency, I don't even know if they're still open in Chicago.
Wow. I guess, as Gabby Bernstein says, the universe had your back, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. And also, that's when I started looking back at all my no's. Maybe they're all beautiful.
I think so. I think everything unfolds and happens the way it's supposed to. I
Yeah.
really do. I don't know if I believe in God. I don't know what I believe in, but I believe that everything is just part of your journey, and it all unfolds the way it's supposed to. So there's no, we learn the message from everything. I think everything is here to teach us something. In my opinion, I don't know. What do I know?
You know a lot, girl. You know a
Sheri,
lot.
yeah. What? Tell me. Go ahead.
Well, and I would just add this to that, is that I'm not sure there's a lot of indiscriminate lessons being thrown at you, but I would say this, that there is a quantum pattern. There is our mystical threads. And really what I wanted was the Oprah job. I really didn't want this other job. Like at a deep soul level, things were getting put into place. And so now what I realize is, and this let this be a takeaway for anybody listening, that if we can collapse time, if I can know in the moment that no is beautiful when I get one, I'll never be miserable. I'll never be disappointed, because I have such faith and trust in my own ability to create the life of my dreams, and to know that unseen forces have joined with those desires, and I can't wait to see it unfold. That literally changes outcomes.
Wow, that is completely life and game changing. It's true. But it's hard. It's hard to imagine everyone had that mindset, Sheri. The world would be a positive, optimistic, beautiful place, right?
Or just our lives. That's all we're really in charge of.
I know, I love that. But that's such a good thing. The fact that we are in control of our destiny is scary and empowering, because we can change it at any time. What would you tell your younger self? I know this is a question you probably get asked, and that a lot of people ask, but I think it's after you've experienced, an epiphany or something big, it's always nice to know, after you've learned the lesson or lessons, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, first I would say everything's going to be okay. All is well. It's all working out for you. And I would also tell my younger self, if there's one thing you can do right now, make that voice inside your head a little more tender, a little bit more kind, a little bit more loving. And the last thing I would say is make happiness your compass.
Make
What you
happiness
really
your
want,
compass.
what you
Yeah.
want is happiness, not a fat resume. What you want is happiness. Not the picture perfect family dream. What you want is happiness. And the externals are delicious details that all come together when you understand that your real goal is happiness.
Yeah, that's an important goal. That's a beautiful goal. When are you at your happiest? Simple question.
Um, I'm at my happiness when I feel like I'm in alignment and I'm connected with the energy that turns the planet. When I feel like I'm conscious and I'm connected, when I can feel the breeze on my face and I can hear the birds, and I'm not rushing by all of it for other things that aren't important. That when I'm super, super present and I feel connected to kind of like the stream of love that's available to all of us. That's when I'm happiest.
When are you at your most vulnerable?
Oh, geez. When you're sending a book out in the world where you spilled your own beans on yourself,
Wow.
that does feel vulnerable. It does feel vulnerable.
Standing naked for the world to see. Right?
Naked as a jaybird for the world to see. Well, listen, having done a podcast for a couple years is super helpful because we're vomiting up stuff every week. But yeah, I mean, that feels vulnerable to me. And also, you know, I would still say I feel vulnerable as I manifest my love life. That feels a little vulnerable for me because I don't feel as strong at that as I do in other areas. So that's when I just kind of have to tenderly coach myself forward.
Yeah, and I like that. So you said something before that you tell your younger self, to be easier, but I think also, like you said, soften your edges. Like you just going on to your dating life, just to, I guess, soften the edges, to
Yes.
feel softer. I sometimes remind myself to soften my edges. That's like a visual thing for myself. Erica, don't be so rigid. Don't be so tight. Soften up. That's my coaching to myself.
That's
What's
good.
Yeah. What's still on your bucket list, or have you done it all? Anything left I feel like you've done it all. Anything left to still dreaming big to do anything or conquer anything or go
Oh,
anywhere?
so many things. So many things. No, that's the point. I mean, I think that's the revelation is, you don't hit 50 and you're at the end game. You like, what else? What else? I mean, I would love to live in Italy for 3 months. I took Italian lessons for almost a year, and it just stirred something up in me. I'd love to live in Tuscany, like for a
Mm,
big 3 month stint.
I'll join you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly. I mean, I'm still stirring things up. There's lots and lots and lots of things on my bucket list. What I'm trying to do though is not let it stay on a bucket list. Like when I have an idea or I have a little bit of a adventure opportunity or I have a creative idea, I want to dive into it and get it done. I don't want to build those lists anymore. I want to, really revel, dance, and enjoy this joyride of mine.
Sounds really beautiful and inspiring. Wow, Sheri, so much wisdom. Anything else I missed in our interview that you want to share? Any epiphanies or last thoughts? Anything you want to teach us? I feel like you've already
Oh
shared so
my
much
gosh.
wisdom, but
Well, I don't have anything to teach you, but I did. I will tell you this. For anybody who's interested in the book, I am going to be putting out a free companion workbook. So if you go to thebeautifulno.com, we'll show you exactly how to input your information so you can get the free workbook, because I think when you read it, you're going to be inspired to want to do it yourself. I think you're going to want to do your own mighty dream quest very much the way I did. And so a bunch of people got together and put together this workbook with me, and I think it's going to be good.
There's nothing better than putting the pen to paper and creating an action plan to really manifest, right, those goals and really to make it happen. Or as I say, get off the fence and make it happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Sheri, it's been such a pleasure. I could go on another few hours. I feel like we just really scratched the surface, and maybe you'll have to come back and we'll have to do a part 2.
I'd love to. And listen, I love you, and thank you for having me on. And thanks everybody for listening. I really, really appreciate this conversation, and I can't wait to do it again.
We will do it again. So the beautiful No, the pillar life, the one and only Sheri Salata. I just, everything you do, I read, I soak it all in, because I think you have a lot to teach the world, and I can't wait to see what's next and let it all beautifully unfold for your beautiful life.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Sheri.
Thank you for listening to the Erica Diamond Podcast. For more inspirational content, head over to womenonthefence.com. Loved this episode of the Erica Diamond Podcast? Subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating or review. It's very much appreciated. Until next time.